friends, Crystal here. Welcome back to my channel. Today I am so pumped to share with you my April 2022 bullet journal setup inside of my work planner. So you've already seen my everyday planner where I keep track of everything to do with home and family. My work planner is a separate bullet journal that I keep for everything to do with my creative line of work. I really hope that this video can be inspirational for you and giving you lots of ideas on how you can keep track of either some of your work items, or if you are also in some kind of creative hobby or creative line of work like I am, then this could really benefit you as well. Now, my work bullet journal is going to tie in with my everyday planning journal because I'm going to use the exact same theme and colors in both. I want to create some consistency throughout all of my journals for each month. So every month, whatever theme I'm using for one is the same theme I'm going to use for all of them. That lets me not have to reinvent the wheel every time, and also helps to keep everything kind of feeling the same throughout the course of the month. So today we are going to go through a ton of different layouts that I set up because there are a lot of moving pieces to the work that I do between Patreon, YouTube, Instagram, podcasting, and more. There's just a lot of things that I have to keep track of. So there are a lot of layouts inside of this book. I say that as a heads up that this is probably going to be a longer video, because I want to share with you all of the different layouts that I'm including this month so you can get some ideas for your own bullet journaling. Now, one thing I do want to mention before we head over to my table is that this idea was not my original idea. I actually found one of my fellow crafty friends, Amy Gretchen, was doing a journal like this for her own crafting. It wasn't necessarily, maybe it was her work journal. Maybe she did call it her work journal, but it kept track of a lot of her crafty endeavors like Project Life and YouTube and Instagram and all of that kind of stuff. And I just really, really loved the idea. This was, in fact, this work journal was my first dip into the bullet journaling world because I loved that I could create a custom planner for me that would help me keep better control over my work and my home life. So that is where this all began. Now, I have been working inside of this work bullet journal for the last 3 months. I started it in the beginning of 2022. So I will do a very quick flip through of those first couple of months just so you can see the progression from the beginning to now. And then we'll dive into the April layouts and getting all of that set up. And there are some things that will be different this month versus the other 2 months. So there'll be some fun stuff there. All right, friends, I am going to stop talking. I'm going to go grab my beverage. I'll meet you over at my table and we can get started planning together. All right, friends, so we're here at my desk, and before I get started working on putting together my pages for April inside of my work journal, I first want to share with you the beginning pages so you get an idea for the things that I'm tracking throughout the course of the year before we get into the monthly spreads. This was a notebook that I was inspired to create based on some videos that I had watched from Amy Gretchen. I am going to put a link in the description box below that will take you to some of her videos so you can see examples of how she used her bullet journal. It's a little bit different and also a little bit the same from what I'm doing in mine. So I started out with this index page, which I have actually not used at all. And then I have my 2022 Get It Done title here in the beginning. Then we get into some of the more broad business types of things. I have a list here for business tasks, just things I want to do on a grand picture scale. I also have a finance tracker to help me keep track of my income, my expenses, and my profit from the things that I'm doing where I earn money as part of what I am creating. I have yet to actually go in and fill any of this out, but I will be working through that here in the next couple of months. Next, I have a layout that is very similar to my everyday planner, which is a future planning log. This is a place for me to keep track of the different events and things that I have going on in the future, since I'm only creating monthly layouts as the months approach. So this lets me keep a really good idea of what's coming in the future. I haven't filled out anything for March yet, and we're actually halfway through March as I'm filming this, but I do need to go ahead and put in some of the dates for things that I know are coming in the months to come. I trimmed off a portion of this top here, so I only had to stamp out my title Future Planning one time, and then this section just flips over and continues with the second half of the year on the back. Next, I have a photo size guide, and this is just a place for me to keep track of all of the photo sizes for the various places where I send them off to. I have my photo sizes for any of my Allie Edwards projects that I was doing for the Allie Edwards design team. I have the Instagram photo sizes for, the most, I don't know what the term is, there's a term for it, but for like the most optimized size of photos. So I have that for both the Instagram feed and the Instagram story. I also have these stats for my blog, so a blog post, a featured image, a Pinterest optimized photo. I have it for YouTube, a thumbnail size and video image size, and then I also have one down here for a Facebook post. So when I am working through editing my photos, I can quickly reference this page to remember what sizes I need to crop my photos to for the content that I'm creating. Next, I have a list of projects that I still need to finish. Out here, I have been writing down all of my unfinished projects, and really I don't even have all of them on here, but I do have, say, Week in the Life 2021, my Project Life 2021, which I have been working on. I have a couple of travel albums and a baby album for my niece that I'm about halfway done with, and I need to just finish that up. This next layout here is one that I was definitely inspired by Amy to create. This is a Project Life tracker, and I did it for 2021 and 2022 because these are my only two unfinished years of Project Life. So inside of these different columns, there's 2 for 2021 and 2 for 2022. I have all of the weeks listed out, so week 1 through 52. For both years. And then there are 5 sections for me to check off as they are done, whether they are printed, so my photos are printed and my journaling is printed, completed, if it is posted on YouTube, if it is posted in a blog post, and if it is posted on Instagram. So there are quite a few that I have printed, completed, and I have completed on YouTube via a live video, but I have actually not put those onto my blog or Instagram yet. So this allows me to keep track of that kind of information and also reminds me what week I am on when I go to create my next Project Life content. So super helpful planner for me is this one. Next, I have a list of YouTube ideas. These are suggestions that I get from people or ideas that I have of my own for content that I would like to share on my YouTube. And then I have another similar page for blog ideas, so content or topics that I would like to cover eventually on my blog as well. So once we have gotten through to the end of my annual pages, next we start to flow into my monthly pages. And I'm actually not going to flip through all of my older months just because that would take way too much time. And I want to go ahead and get into creating my April monthly spreads. So we're going to go ahead and put you on fast forward, and I will do a voiceover over the top to let you know the different pages that I'm designing, the purpose for them, what I'm tracking with them, and all of that good information. I am going to be designing these layouts to match my other journals as well. So you're going to see some of the same elements from my everyday planner will come into play inside of my work planner. I hope you enjoy seeing these layouts come together, and without further ado, let's go ahead and dive in. As we get started in working in my work journal here, the first things that I want to point out to you is that I'm using the exact same font and color scheme as I did in my home planner and as I'm going to use later on in my daily journals. I'm just trying to make all of these go together and be really cohesive. For my title page, I added in the word April using my Ali Edwards script font. That is the larger sized one in the 6x8. I will also be using the 4x6 size of that font as well for some of my layouts in this book. Now I'm moving on to my calendar page. Unlike my home planner, where my calendar holds all of the events that are happening for our family, this calendar serves as my content calendar. So this is where I am writing out on the days the different forms of content and the different videos or layouts or whatever it is that I'm posting either in my YouTube or in my Patreon or on my Instagram. So this is the main hub for where I'm keeping track of what is going where on what day. I also have 4 smaller boxes on the right-hand side of my calendar, and what I write in there is on the last day of the month, I go onto all of my different social media platforms and put in how many subscribers or followers or patrons I have, just to keep a running tab on how things are going from month to month. That's really the only place that I track that sort of information. And I try not to let it be too big of an influence on the work that I'm doing, but it is something that ultimately does matter since this is part of my job and part of what I do for work. I did accidentally make a boo-boo and I stamped Monday on the first day of the calendar. So you did see me cut a piece of the very last page out, re-highlight over that, and I just stuck it down, and you don't even know, you can't even tell when you look at the calendar that I stuck an extra piece of paper on top of that. It's just good to go. For the next 2 layouts, I have a page that is dedicated to my goals, and I'm setting up 3 different areas to highlight 3 of my big goals for the month. Underneath those 3 boxes, I have another larger box where I have area to jot down notes for future content ideas. Oftentimes, as I am working through creating content for a specific month, I might have an idea come up, or I might have one of my community members reach out and ask me to make a specific kind of content at some point in the year. So I like to have a space where I can record those different ideas from month to month. For the right-hand side, I have a finance tracker. The larger box there is tracking my expenses. So the date, the vendor, the description of what I'm purchasing, and the amount. And then the bottom section is where I am recording my income. I do get income for my creative work from a wide variety of places. I have a Patreon, which is the main part of my business, but I also make some income from Google AdSense, scrapbook.com affiliate. I affiliate for Amazon. I teach classes, and then sometimes there's just miscellaneous things that I do in order to bring in some income for the month. So that's a place for me to document those numbers at some point, usually after the month has passed. The next layouts here, I have a bunch of trackers that you're going to see me put together, and each one is slightly different. The first one here is a daily tracker. So these are tasks that it's ultimately my goal to be able to get to them every day. I have not been super great about it. I would like to get better. But there are a lot of things that need to happen on a daily basis, and sometimes it's just hard to get to them all. So my daily tracker is uploading my photos. It's making sure I'm responding to things on Patreon, YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, StoryKit Crush. I have a blog that I try to maintain, so making sure I'm all up to date on that and bringing my email inbox down to 0. That's something that really helps me manage my life. On the right-hand side, I have a Patreon content tracker. So this helps me keep track of the different posts that I am putting on Patreon. And then all of those little checkboxes are steps along the way to creating the content for the post and making sure it's scheduled. The very bottom, the last thing I did there was also create a tracker for a series that I do in my Patreon called Fridays with Friends. It is a podcast style interview with a member in my Patreon, and that goes on every Friday. There's an episode that airs. So there are different things that I need to keep track of when it comes to scheduling and completing and editing and posting all of those interviews. We're turning the page and creating two last trackers here. One of them is my YouTube tracker, again, keeping track of all the different tasks that need to happen in order to create the content for my YouTube channel. So that's what all of those tiny boxes are. For example, on a video, I need to design my layout. I need to print the pieces in order to create my layout. I need to film the video, edit the video, voice it over, add in my images, upload it to YouTube, schedule it, add a blog post about it, and then make sure I've got content ready to post on both Instagram feed and Instagram story related to the video. So there's a lot of pieces that go into each and every piece of content that I make. And so this just really helps me to keep it all on track and going in the right direction for each of those different pieces. And then I also had a tracker for my blog where it's very similar, post and then all the different steps in order to do the blog. The other page that I did in addition to the YouTube and the blog tracker is my Paper Talk podcast notes. I do a monthly segment on the Paper Talk podcast, and I just like to have a place to write down notes on the different things I want to be sure to cover in each of our episodes. Moving on to some of my weekly spreads, all of my weekly spreads look exactly the same. So at the top of the page, I stamp out the first 3 letters of the month, and then I'm going to add the days going from Monday to Sunday because I like my weeks to start on Monday. Underneath the title there, I have 6 boxes where I am designating 1 box for each day of the week. So there's a Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, and Saturday. I take Sundays off and I try not to do anything work related on Sunday so I can just be with my family on the weekend. I don't often get to take the entire weekend. I usually have some work that I need to get done. And so that's why there is a box for Saturday on there, because even though it would be super awesome to have an entire weekend off, it's just not practical with where we're at in our life situation with kids and school and having to run around a lot during the week. On the right-hand side of this, I'm adding 3 boxes. The smaller one at the top is an events box. So that's where I'm going to put any special events that are happening that week, meetings, things that I need to have a specific date and time designated for. Underneath that, I have a section for notes. I am oftentimes meeting with people with whom I am working with or people who are helping me in some of the content that I'm creating. So that's a section for me to add some notes based on the conversations we've had for things that I need to do or things that my partners are doing that I need to make sure I follow up on, those types of things. And then underneath that large box, I have one more small one that's designated for Patreon, and that's just a place for me to jot down anything that's related to Patreon that I need to remember month to month or week to week. So that's what's going there. Having these sections, so having the trackers initially to help me keep track of the progress of my different projects, and then having these weekly spreads where I'm able to break things down and designate what I am actually doing on the different days of the week has really helped me to stay more efficient throughout my work days. I do have a lot of moving pieces in my everyday life. I have 2 young kids, one who's still home a couple days of the week. The other one is in school, so I've got drop-offs and pickups and dinner to make and a house to upkeep, and there's just a lot of things going on. So the more efficient I can be with the time that I have to get stuff done, you know, the better and the more I'm actually able to get done. I am also adding some of those floral elements on the different pages on these layouts as well, just to help tie in some of that color and some of the theme from the rest of the week and make the pages a little bit more interesting to look at. For the events, notes, and Patreon boxes, I did handwrite in those titles, but I also pulled out this stamp set from Everyday Explorers. It's called Calendar Days, and it has a smaller font of each day of the week. So I was able to just stamp in the day of the week into the 6 boxes on the weekly spreads. The we're down to the last 3 layouts. So the one on the left-hand side here is my hours tracker. Since I'm trying to keep a little bit better track on how much time I'm spending on the different areas of my work. So how much time is going into the content for Allie Edwards design team? How much time is going into my work for Patreon? You know, and keeping track of those types of things is going to help me better quantify my time, but also it's going to give me a much better gauge on what things are most beneficial from a business and profit standpoint, if that makes sense. Because even though this is a hobby and this is something I totally love, but it's also something that I'm doing as a career. So it is important for me to keep that in the forefront of my mind. So my hours tracker has a row for every single day of the month where I'm able to write in the hours that I worked on a particular thing, and then also a small description of what I was working on for that day. The layout next to that one says reflections, and I have 3 different boxes for that one as well. The top one says what worked. That's for me to just jot down notes or things that I really enjoyed working on, things that were worth my time, things that I would want to keep doing in the future. Then I have a second box that says improve, and that's for things that I either want to change or do differently, or just let go altogether. Just a place to be really honest about that. And then the last one at the bottom is an ideas box for just one more place to write down any ideas that I want to capture before moving into the next month. This last page here is a notes page just to jot down anything and everything I would need or want in order to finish up the month. And then that, my friends, is my full work planner monthly layouts. I hope that this was helpful to come together to see how it is that I am managing and maintaining the work that I do. And maybe there's something in here that you can take and use in your own hobby or your own career. If you have any questions, please leave those down in the comment section for me. If you enjoyed this video, I would love a thumbs up, and consider subscribing if you are new to my channel. I will be back with more videos very soon in the future. Until then, have a great day, friends, and I'll catch you in the next video.